Hello, Professor. My name is Alayna Ferguson, and today I will be presenting domestic violence in the state of Illinois and the radical criminology theory. Towards the end of this presentation, we will intertwine the both and discuss how radical criminology theory can help save lives, protect victims, and punish the abusers, and bring down the total crime rate in the U.S. Let us begin by talking about domestic violence in the past. In the past, women were the main targets of domestic violence. They were seen as children. We were not given equal rights. They were abused by their fathers and their spouses. And it was seen as an everyday thing. It was normal for everyone to do this to their wives. Over the years, the definition of domestic violence has evolved to include men, children, and the LGBTI community. This is far different from a few decades back, where it was mostly just seen as women, but over time, it has evolved into more of a broader spectrum of victims. Each state currently holds its own laws, regulations, penalties, and definitions of domestic violence. We will discuss these regulations, penalties, and definitions and how they protect and try to ensure as much hope and counseling and advising to really bring these victims up to feel secure and safe. So the background of domestic violence in the state of Illinois. Illinois defines domestic violence as physical abuse, psychological abuse, or violence of an intimate relationship in which one person uses a pattern of assault and intimidating acts to obtain power and or control over another. The first act that was created was the Illinois Domestic Violence Act in 1986. This act was the first one to really ensure that justice be served to those abusers and really protect the victims. Over the years, Illinois has also placed laws to ensure abusers do not go without punishment. This can be from any acts of domestic battery, aggravated domestic violence. Usually that those who face these kind of punishments, when it's just domestic battery, it's usually seen as a class A misdemeanor. This means that 1 year in jail, probation, counseling, probably some fines will be given to the abuser. Although, if the abuser does have prior history of violence, hurting a child, sexual assault, carrying a firearm, this is seen as a class 4 felony. That means that instead of having a misdemeanor of like 1 year in jail, that the punishment will be up to 3 years in prison, but the judge can choose if they want to prolong the sentence based on the offender's past crime and how severe the current crime is. Aggravated domestic violence, on the other hand, is classified as a class 2 felony, and one can receive up to 3 to 7 years in prison. And like class 4, if you have a prior history of domestic violence, carrying a firearm, assault, sexual assault, it could be up to 14 years in prison for the crime. Even though that Illinois has these laws in place, it is clearly not enough. And over the years, they're working on evolving, strengthening, really trying to be there for the victims over time. In early 2021, the Illinois Supreme Court realized that most cases involving domestic violence do not truly protect the victim and punish the abuser. With this understanding that it is not currently working correctly, they try to evolve it and go for more of a victim side approach. They created this thing called Hope Cards, which is basically like a driver's license that says they're protected. They have gone to court to publish a filing against their abuser. The abuser cannot contact them, come near them, and it just goes on for like a little list saying that you do have protections. Between 2013 and 2014, 84 deaths took place due to domestic violence. Of those 84 deaths, 15 of the victims were children. This is a very high number, and it has gone down slightly over the past recent years. To reform the current issues of Illinois domestic violence, we seek that the victims reach out to these resources, and get the proper help they need so that it doesn't fall into a cycle of domestic violence and abuse. The Illinois Department of Health Services is a great opportunity to reach out to seek help. They have 24-hour service, provides resources in a broad range of ways. They can get you money for college, give you transportation, childcare, um, counseling, medical care, anything they could think of. They're there to help the victim in any way possible to um, seek safety, basically, from their abuser. It's accessible to all, which also is a great thing. Okay, now we're going to discuss the Encyclopedia of Social Theory. This is also, I chose a subcategory of this called a Marxist-oriented conflict. It is also known as the radical criminology theory. I chose this because it really stood out to me on how we can suppress crime rate as a whole compared to one subdivision of domestic violence. The concept really questions why one breaks the law due to their social class level. So that's basically saying that if you're poor, you're more likely to break the rules and commit crimes than if you were more wealthy. Crime happens when a person is alienated and oppressed through their social status, and that person refuses to accept their lower class status. They don't want to stay in that lower class status, so that is why they do break the law. Social status is a key factor in domestic violence. That is why people come home angry and upset that they're basically suffering to live, to support for their family, and they do take out that anger on their family. It is a key correlation between social status and domestic violence. If everyone was happy, I assume that domestic violence would basically cease to exist. The United States social income gap is one of the biggest in the world. It is so wide that this is why we have an issue with domestic violence and crime in general. If we were to minimize that gap between the rich and the poor to make a more middle class, broader middle class, it will create balance in which everyone can live in a moderate lifestyle, happier. It will lower the domestic violence rates, it will lower crime rates as a whole. It will really help us out as a unity. And then there's my sources. Thank you for listening. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. And I hope you have a great winter break. Thank you.